No, we did have some sad news. Virginia Giuffre, her death was announced, and we're still waiting, obviously, for more details. As I say, it is a tragic incident, and we know over the last couple of weeks we have been talking about on this show the developments that has been going on in Australia. But this is a royal show, and we have to talk about, of course, Prince Andrew. I spoke to someone quite close to his team a couple of days afterwards to ask, would the Duke of York want to say anything? Would he react in any way? Because obviously Virginia Giuffre had accused him of lots of things, and he has paid her a lot of money. Would he put a statement out or give any kind of guidance? And they said, well, he'd be damned if he does, and he'd be damned if he doesn't. What do you think the right thing for Prince Andrew to do?
Stay quiet.
Yeah,
I mean,
would agree.
that is exactly right. You know, whatever he said, it would sort of draw the story back out again. And I don't think people are really that interested in hearing anything from him, to be brutally frank. And actually, what I'm more mindful of is the whole Giuffre family now having to deal with the plethora of outrageous conspiracy theories that percolate every day. That's a sad thing when they're dealing with, obviously, issues. And the death of a woman who's had an incredibly troubled life in the full glare of the media globally. Augmented by the connections to Prince Andrew. So I think there's great sadness there around that. And when you see conspiracy theories, most ridiculous conspiracy theories, that people will buy into as fact, not as a conspiracy theory.
Which is why I think it would just be futile for Andrew. I mean, the Palace don't comment on him now anyway. They've completely detached themselves, which I think is very wise, is a very clever PR move on their part. But, if he gets involved on any level, it will fuel conspiracy theories, it will continue this narrative. I mean, I thought Richard Kay did a brilliant piece, actually, in the Mail, which was just the sort of idea being that in her death, in her suicide, and of course there's so many conspiracy theories about her death anyway, it sort of inexorably connects these two. It just makes that narrative even more tragic. I mean, that's all we're ever going to remember Prince Andrew for. So I think he just, the King has wanted him to slip quietly into the background for some time. I was quite surprised to see him at the Easter service. I know it's a family occasion, but really the greatest thing that Andrew can do for the royal family is to just disappear. And of course, he won't do that. As long as he continues to appear, that sort of spectre now, I suppose, of Virginia Giuffre is going to loom very large over him. He just simply can't escape it.
There is no closure to that story.
That's what I mean. There's no closure.
None whatsoever.
There's no closure now.
And even, that continual shot of Ghislaine, Maxwell and him in that flat with his arm around her, it will
haunt him forever.
It is there. And, and I think that's the problem. He is the toxic spare. I mean, he had sort of pitch at the Palace, and certain businesses will say that his influence is very profound, particularly in startups. So, he could help raise that sort of seed money for lots of people. All that's gone. There's been some attention on that this week. But what do you do when you are bred, to serve, and the toxicity of you, he may as well be some sort of monastic monk going to some Trappist, monastery and staying put, because he can't do anything. As Katie said, the mere glimpse of him is a story.
Well, where do we go forward? Where does Andrew go forward then, really? We were discussing this last week about what happens to Andrew after his appearance at Easter, and there was some good debate, and lots of people were leaving comments online. Many people were actually supportive of Andrew that watched the show were saying, he needs to be given a chance, some, forgiveness over Easter, or forgiveness is a way forward. But I want to get your thoughts, Mark, because when he made the payment to Virginia in 2022, I believe, a statement was put out on his behalf. And the statement said that he would endeavour to help or work a way forward for victims of trafficking. That hasn't happened. I mean, could that be a way forward maybe for Andrew? Some kind of charity work, show some kind of contrition. Doesn't have to admit anything. He can continue to maintain his innocence. But is there a way forward maybe in a charity sphere, even behind the scenes?
It needs to be a very brave charity. I mean, just trying to be fair to him at the moment, that statement, I'm sure that intention was valid. That's what he wanted to do. But if you're sitting on a charitable board, you're looking at the work of, let's say, an established charity in that field. Having Andrew on it, is that a particularly good look?
Well, you called him toxic.
Yeah, so therefore, I don't think it brings the right aura, to what you're trying to achieve. I think in time, it's quite interesting that, gradually things sort of fade away in people's mind. There isn't the same sort of intensity of emotion around an idea. And I think that he possibly could, in the background, maybe he is, give some advice, help people, use whatever influence he has. And he has a powerful network outside this country, particularly in the Middle East. So I think there are stuff he could do, but perhaps that he can't go public on it. And I think that's what people expect in some way, that there's got to be this fulsome idea of what you're doing next. So I think it is tough for his brand, but I think that there is an opportunity, and maybe that's what's going on at the moment. We don't know.
I disagree, actually. I think if there was an opportunity, it was after that Newsnight interview. That was when things needed to change for Andrew. That was when he should have shown some contrition. He could have, his daughter's involved with anti-sex trafficking charities. I think best leave it to Eugenie and Beatrice doing the great work that they do. I just think that Andrew is, as you say, so toxic. I don't think there is any hope of a rehabilitation for him. This is the man who would turn business trips into pleasure trips and play golf anyway and loves to horse ride. I mean, can't he just go and do that on a remote part of an estate and leave the king, who is doing, in my opinion, a brilliant job? He's, the family's been under so much pressure the last few years. The last thing they need is this sort of incumbent on it, making it even harder than it needs to be, attracting all sorts of difficult and, frankly, negative headlines. A time when, I think the royal family could do without it.
He is toxic. There's no work about it. And that, that interview was
a disaster.
The full stop. I mean, I think I described at the time it was like the equivalent of driving a clown car with a lit cigarette through a firework factory. It was just jaw-droppingly sort of deaf in terms of, and blind in some ways to things around you.
And yet we're 6 years on and it still hasn't recovered for Andrew. No. It's still, more
no, because he keeps trying to edge his way back in.
He won't let go.
That's
in the same way
problem.
that Harry and Meghan won't let go of those HRH titles. He just is clinging on. He needs to let go.
And as soon as you edge back in, it's a story. It's a story. And particularly in a world where, it's clickbait news around Andrew, with thousands of titles.
Well, I'm sure all our thoughts and prayers go to Virginia Giuffre's family in Australia.
It's very, very sad.
It's a very sad.
Incredibly for her family, sad. A terrible time to be going through.
But nothing from Andrew, and we think it's the right decision.
Yeah.